Mr. Snyder here with the second tutorial for the radio commercial unit for grade 9 technology. Let's go now to Mr. Elsey's website. Again, it's elseycomtech.com, or if you just search on Google his name Elsey and Weebly, you'll find his website. We're going to go to the grade 9 tab. We're going to go to the grade 9 TV and video. Let's go to the research and production elements page and just do a very quick recap of what you've done. Okay, the first thing we did is we watched how a professional voiceover artist actually records a voiceover commercial for a client. That's an actual client and gets paid for it. Very interesting process he had. And some of the challenges he had, number one was the script was too long. So how did he deal with that? If you watched the whole commercial, the whole YouTube, you would have seen how he dealt with that. Okay, huge challenge. And then what we did after that is we looked at this IKEA commercial and we identified the things that are called production elements. Production elements are the things in a radio commercial you're hearing. And there's different types of sounds that you hear. The first is voices. You'll pretty much always have a voice in a radio commercial because if you don't say it, people don't hear it. They don't know what you're talking about. You can't just have sort of other sounds. You got to have voices. So you're going to have one, two, or even more voices. Depends on the commercial. Another production element, things that you can use to create a radio commercial, things you'll hear, are sound effects. Sound effects enhance a radio commercial. It makes it more interesting to the listener, grabs their attention. In the case of IKEA, you had a bunch of background sounds and laughing or people scurrying around. You could also have in a different commercial, dogs barking, maybe cars driving by, honking, whatever. Sound effects enhance the radio commercial and add interest. And then the other thing that you'll often have in a radio commercial is some kind of music or at least a piece of music. It might only be 5 seconds long. It's called a sting. Okay, so you could have some kind of music in a radio commercial. Not always, but usually you'll have some music somewhere in the commercial. Okay, so those are the three primary production elements you will use in a radio commercial, things you'll hear. And then special effects, that's if you add some kind of an effect to one of these production elements. You might have some echo on a voice, or you might have some distortion on a sound effect, or music might be distorted or something. So a special effects by itself is not a production element, it's an effect added to an element, if that makes sense to you. The other thing we spent time on was the tagline. The tagline, hopefully you came up with a nice list of taglines that students in your class remember. And the tagline is really that last memorable thought in a radio commercial that is calling people to take action. It's called a call to action. I want you to go out and buy, in this case I think it was bedroom furniture or mattresses for IKEA. Okay? It's motivating you to take action towards their product, their service, or just selling them on a concept, an experience. What do I mean by that? Well, down here. Here's a couple of famous taglines. I'm loving it, McDonald's. Probably you've all heard that before. We talked about it. I'm loving it isn't selling me burgers. It's selling me the McDonald's experience. So then I go to McDonald's and I relate all those other things, the food part, once I'm there. They just want to get me there. And then Just Do It, a hugely successful ad campaign. Advertising campaign for Nike, made them billions of dollars. Just Do It, selling an active lifestyle. It's not selling me shoes directly or hats or clothing. It's selling me the idea of an active lifestyle. And hey, remember, active lifestyle, Nike. That's how you become an active person, is by wearing their stuff. So that was the purpose of this IKEA breakdown and understanding what a tagline is in the exercise as a class where you made a list of taglines. Next, we did the radio commercial for McDonald's. We did the same thing. We broke it down, but we didn't just make a list of the sounds. We wanted you to put it in this chart, which you then start to map out all the sounds you hear as you hear them. Okay? And there's the blank one you used. And then after we used sort of this practice commercial of McDonald's, we had you go to these two links, find a commercial that you liked, or if you found something else, it didn't have to be from here, that you liked, do the same thing, take a commercial you like and map it out in this table. Okay, so that was the purpose of this first part of this exercise of the radio commercial, is just to get you familiar with what are the things we use in a radio commercial, what are the production elements, and hey, look, it's actually got a structure to it. Okay, so let's go on now to the next stage. We're going to go again to the grade 9 TV and video. Research is what we did. We're going to go over to the pre-production. And what does that mean? What does pre-production stage mean? Pre-production, whether it's radio or TV or film, is everything you do to prepare to actually record the sound. Things you would do to prepare to shoot the video or shoot the film. You can't just take a camera or take a microphone and just start recording. You need to know what it is you're doing. So that's the pre-production stage, which is the planning stage. And in this case, we're just going to look at the top part of this page. Okay, there's other stuff we're going to come to later in the unit, but for now, in the pre-production, all we're really going to look at is this commercial here on the right. This is the actual finished radio commercial that you are going to recreate. You're going to recreate this commercial exactly as you hear it here. Now, within reason, of course. Within, sound's going to shift slightly. But it's going to sound just like this in your recreation. And that's going to be the first assignment you have, is the recreation. We've given you on the left the actual script, which should be familiar to you now, which is why we did the table before. So there's the script. In this case, the order of things is a little different, perhaps. Okay, but the first column is sound effects. Hey, look, there's no sound effects, no sound effects. And then the first sound effect we hear is way down here. It's where a knife is being drawn to cut. Drawn means to be pulled out or to be sharpened, I guess, in this case. The next column is music. It says here, music plays throughout. That means that you're going to start with the music at the start and it's going to go all the way to the end of the commercial. Did not need to write music, 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 music in every cell. Just music plays throughout. The next column is the character. And notice it doesn't say the person. It's a character. They're an actor. And we had two actors in this commercial. One is a male, one's a female. Those are the two voices you're going to hear. And the male starts the commercial. And the male has the first line of the commercial. So you'll hear music and you'll hear the first male character say, "I'm making dinner tonight." And in actual fact, there's slight variations from the written script and what's said on the clips. Use the clips as they are. He actually says, "Hello, dear, I'm making dinner tonight," with some enthusiasm. That's the first line of the script. And that's the first production element you'll hear along with the music. That's followed by the first female line, because now they're having a conversation. And she says sort of hesitantly or skeptically, "Oh, really? What are you making?" And again, we're hearing the music play. You could put an arrow all the way down if you chose to. We're hearing the music play as she says that line. And then it's his second line, "Bacon and tomato sandwiches." All proud of what he's going to make, right? So he's acting. He's not reading. He's acting. That's the thing. And we're going to get into that when we get to you actually recording your own voices and putting your own voices at the end of the unit on the commercial. But we'll get into that. It's important to know, though, that this was my male voice. It was my wife's female voice. It's important to know that we weren't who we are. We're not two teachers working for Peel. We were an actor that was proud he was going to make dinner and a female who was like, "Oh, really? Like, I know you're not very good at this." So we're acting. Okay? So there's the script and there's the words that are said. And there's the sound effects that come in. Again, music's playing throughout. And there's the line of script as they happen. Notice the male has two lines back to back here. Okay, now, there is a little trick here. I'll get into it in the tutorials when you're editing. The male clip, line 1 and line 2, his two first lines of script are all on the first audio clip. So they are combined on one clip, and we have to split that, and I'll show you how to do that in editing. Okay? Because when it was read, or not, sorry, it wasn't read, when it was performed, it was like, "Hello, dear, I'm making dinner tonight." Then I paused, and then I read the second line. "Bacon and tomato sandwiches." And then I stopped record. So those two lines of the script are on one audio clip, and we have to deal with that in editing. Okay? Let's go down to the tagline. Uber Eats, fast food without the accidents. Said with enthusiasm. I hate that tagline. I wrote it, and I left it in purposely. I've got better ones. But I kept that in there, and I'd like you as your class to decide why I hate it. Eventually, you're going to do your own version of this commercial by making slight modifications of this script. That's part 2 of the radio commercial editing. But you're going to come up with your own tagline, something better than what I've given you here. And then maybe some of you don't eat bacon, so you want to replace it with your own food. Maybe it's a food to your culture. Maybe it's a food that you just like, whatever it is. So we'll get into that later on. Okay, so that's the script for the radio commercial, and it pretty much mirrors what you hear in the radio commercial. These two elements, these two things here, are both in your folder that you downloaded from the Google Drive or from wherever you downloaded the folder with your teacher. Okay, so the script is in that folder as well as the finished radio commercial. So you can go back to this website, but it's probably just more convenient to call them up out of the folder. Underneath of this, we get into tagline and script development. This is really the second part of pre-production. This is where you're going to, at the end, after you've edited the recreation exactly as you hear it using the voices that you were given. So the first version is going to be using all of the clips that you were given, including the voices. And then after you've done that, you're going to hand it in. And then to get an even better mark, you're going to rewrite the script slightly, just modify, not rewrite. And you're going to record 2 new voices that you're going to replace the existing voices with yours. That'll be probably several days down the road, a few days down the road. Okay? We'll get to that after we get into editing the first version, which is the recreation. So that's a breakdown of where you're going with this radio commercial. Make sure you have all of the audio and script and completed audio commercial in your folder before you start editing. Make sure you refer to the script so you know the order of the lines that they appear in the, you hear them in the radio commercial. Okay? So that's your task. Make sure you have the stuff, and then we're going to get into the editing in the next tutorial.